Hi folks, welcome to this part. We are looking at part 7 of this playlist, which is on solution architect professional, not associate, okay? And needless to say, these are all real certification questions. Can they be repeated in future? Yes. Will all of them be repeated? No. Can some be repeated? Yes. But if you focus on the concept, even if the questions are not exactly the same, you can still navigate with flying colors. In this part, we are looking at covering questions for these topics. Please subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. Subscription and likes gives me a pulse of what the audience is looking for. If I do not get subscription and likes, I get a feel that this is a content which not many are interested. So I may go low on this one and high on the other content where people are more interested. Please complete your AWS Solution Architect Associate before you hit the professional certification. If you already have at least 3 years of AWS experience, then you can try hitting professional certification directly. For previous parts, please refer parts 1 to 6 of this playlist. Let's jump into this question. It's a question around AMI. What is AMI? It is a machine image. Have you seen machine image in your current corporate? Most of them, yes, they must have seen. Whether it be Infosys, Wipro, Accenture, so on. They all have hardware teams, and what they do is they install all of the stuff which is compliant with their organization, and then they create an image out of it so that every time they don't have to install Word, PowerPoint, Office 365, blah blah blah. It will all be in an image. You give them 10 laptops, they will install the same image on 10 laptops. You give them 100 computers, they will install the same image on 100 computers. Saves time for the hardware guys and brings consistency. Otherwise, what will happen is each and every desktop, if this hardware guy is installing himself, he might make a manual error, and you might say that, hey, you know what, I don't have Word available with me on my desktop. What should I do? So AMIs in the Amazon world ensures your EC2 instances. Why EC2? Because in AWS, EC2 is just like your desktop, but a virtual desktop. Now, when we create and define AMIs, what the question is asking is you are defining this and starting a new instance on EC2. EC2 is Elastic Compute Cloud. So they are saying that you are defining storage volumes in addition to the root device. How you can do that? See, root device by default, it will be there. You have to, you know, create it. But sometimes apart from the root device, people also add additional storage devices. For example, consider your desktop in today's world. C drive everybody has, but sometimes some organizations say, I will split the drives and I will also provide D drive and E drive. If on the EC2 world, AWS world, you got to do this, then out of these features, what sounds more relevant? Let's decode this. Data center mapping. Buddy, you do not have access to data centers in the cloud world. Any cloud, Azure, AWS, GCP, nobody would allow you to touch the data center. So where does this question of data center mapping comes in? You don't even know where is the data center. Like, for example, in California, I have a region, but where in California? Is it San Jose? What is the exact address and so on? You don't know. Now C talks about batch storage mapping. Okay, what is batch storage mapping? There is a feature called AWS batch. There is nothing called batch storage mapping. I did not see this. You can try Google and search for it. If you find something which is interesting, you can drop in your comments. AWS batch is a service. AWS batch we generally use if we want to dynamically provision the optimal quantity of compute. Like you got a batch job, and suppose this is ab initio. A lot of ETL jobs are getting executed in batches. You should very well use AWS batch so that these jobs will never fall short of compute resources. But what is wrong with C is in this question, we are talking about a stage before your job execution starts. Okay, an AWS batch is primarily used for execution so that it can dynamically, from thin air, it can provision the resources. For example, your jobs are running and suddenly you realize, hey, you know what? I'm falling short of CPU. AWS batch would take care of it, man. So C cannot be an answer for this use case here. Let's consider object mapping. Again, I could not find anything concrete, but let me give you an explanation here. Object in the cloud world is what? You know, S3 buckets, they hold objects. It's an object store. So when we are talking about this guy here, EC2, when we are talking about EC2, we need volumes, not object stores, but volume stores. Block storage, block. EC2 block, EBS, elastic block store. We do not need object mapping. Objects in the cloud world are S3. So that just leaves us with block device mapping. So I'm giving you a fantastic documentation here. It clearly says when you launch, a root device volume is already there, it's already created, but you can use block device mapping. You see this block device mapping? Why? To specify additional EBS volumes. Just like instead of just drive C, you are also adding drive D and E. So this is my answer, plain and stupid. Let's look at this question. See, in a nutshell, this is a monitoring question. So DynamoDB, this is your database and this is getting monitored. And you have set alerts. For example, if the CPU utilization hits 80% and above, you have to do something like sending alerts. You got to send alerts. So your IT team who is supporting can immediately go and say which crooked guy has run what kind of jobs, which is utilizing this much percentage of CPU on this database. Is it a planned activity? Is it an unplanned activity? Are these SQL injections by bad players? Blah, blah, blah. Now, someone very smartly might say, now some people might say, hey, you know what? DynamoDB is a NoSQL database. How the hell you can fire SQL queries, SQL injections? There is a workaround for those SQLs, and SQL injections can still use that. So basically, you have a database, you are monitoring it, and for example, if the CPU hits 80% and above, you got to send alerts. Okay, and what you have to use here, let's look at what is alarm signal. See, I could not spot anything which is talking about alarm signals. There is only one service, CloudWatch Alarms, which can be integrated here. So you don't believe me, what will happen is you can set a metric alarm. The metric may be on CPU utilization, and then you can do whatever you want to send alerts. So A is incorrect. Let's look at B. It says to use DynamoDB Analyzer. So I could not spot a service like that, but what I could spot is you can analyze your data on DynamoDB with Apache Spark, and it explains how Spark can talk to DynamoDB. And another article I could found is like how you could do advanced analytics and build visualizations using Amazon Athena with DynamoDB. I'm not sure of a service or a feature of DynamoDB which is called DynamoDB Analyzer. If you know, please drop in your comments. So B is wrong. C looks correct, like I showed you in the first part where CloudWatch is born to do this. It is born to monitor services. It is born to raise alarms if there is a metric shoot. So CloudWatch would be my answer, but let's look at what is DynamoDB alarm. I could not find anything such like DynamoDB alarms. See, any feature in AWS, whether it be DynamoDB, RDS, etc., we can use CloudWatch alarms. We integrate it with CloudWatch. If you already have CloudWatch, which is available, why will AWS duplicate the CloudWatch functionality and put something in the database? It will not. Thumb rule. If you're monitoring anything, if you want to monitor the metrics, use CloudWatch. So this is my answer. In real life, how what we do is CloudWatch would send alerts, okay? And how if you want email alerts, it can integrate with SNS, and it can send emails stating that, hey buddy, your CPU is 80% utilized. Do you want to take some action? Like, do you want to set up dynamic scaling, or do you want to have a look and see which person, which query is utilizing so much of resources? That's how we do it in the real world. Now let's look at this question. Which of the following parameters is free on DynamoDB? What is free here? Is storage cost free? No. You will be charged for storage. If they give you storage free, you would be very lucky. It is not free. And I can vouch when you are provisioning read units and write units, that is not free. DynamoDB and Amazon makes tons of money by charging you for read units and write units. Okay, they charge tons of money. Storage is relatively cheap, but the read units and write units are not. And they know if you want performance, you will step up the read and write units, and that's why the that is how Amazon makes money. So what is left is B. When you are having an IO usage within the same region, that is free, because any communication within the region in many cases is free. Okay, anything that is going outside of a region is not free. Anything that is going outside of a region to another region, or outside of a region to on premises, is not free. Anything that comes inside AWS, any data that is coming inside AWS is free. So this would be my answer. See, you can go to AWS pricing calculator and look for the prices for each and every feature of DynamoDB. The prices are transparent. You can use groups for hierarchical estimates, and you can share your estimates, export your estimates as well. In the real world, it is very important to create an estimate and give a projection as to what would be your usage on a quarterly basis, weekly basis, annual basis, and so on. This brings us to the end of this part. Please hit the subscribe and the like button. Like I always say, your subscription and your like, it helps me gauge what the audience is looking for and produce contents which resonates with the audience. This brings us to the end of part 7. We covered questions linked with these topics. Let me do a quick recap. See you in the next part. Ciao.